Okay guys, so the final question in a Stage 2 Modern History source analysis in the exam is normally an extended response question. These questions normally ask you to respond to a preposition, so something that needs to be argued, and in the sources that you're provided you should be able to find something that supports the argument and also provides an alternative or a counter argument. This needs to be set out as an extended response, so it needs an introduction, it needs 3 paragraphs, and it needs a conclusion. And one of the main points of this is that you must use every source that is printed on the source sheet, so you must refer back to each one of those sources in whatever argument you put forward. If you agree with the question or with the statement that's put forward in the question, your first paragraph must agree with it, your second paragraph must agree with it, and your final paragraph disagrees with it. If you disagree with the statement made in the question, your first paragraph agrees with it, your second paragraph disagrees with it, and your last paragraph disagrees with it. Alright, so one other thing that you need to make sure that you remember is that you never talk about the sources in the order that they're printed in. Alright, so you must in some cases combine the information that's in sources within your paragraphs, but never answer source 1 says this, source 2 says this, source 3 says this. That is not the way to answer this question. Okay, so what I'm going to let you do, have a look at the question that's set, which is actually with reference to all the sources, evaluate the proposition that Edward VIII should not have abdicated. Have a look through the sources, see if you can find evidence that suggests that, and then what we'll do is we'll come back and have a look at the answer that I've constructed using the evidence from the sources. Alright? Okay guys, so if I was in Stage 2 History and I was doing this in the exam, I would have 2 different coloured highlighters. I'd have a green one and I'd have a red one, and for this answer I would go through and I would find things that supported the statement and I would find things that didn't support the statement and highlight those different colours. In this example, in the ones that you've been given about Edward VIII, what I've actually found, what the conclusion that I've come to is that Edward should not have abdicated. The British Cabinet did everything that they could to find fault with the different alternatives that he came up with. Edward wanted to be king, he loved Mrs. Simpson, and he believed that by marrying her he would do a better job as king, and therefore he shouldn't have been made to abdicate because he wanted to marry her. So what you'll see in my highlighted bits that I've done on the screen at the moment is that in each source I've found different places where, first of all, I agree with the statement. So if I have agreed with the statement, it's in green, and if I disagree with the statement, then it's in pink. Alright, so you can see how that stands out. You'll notice that every source is actually highlighted. If you end up going to my statement that I've made, what you'll notice first of all is that there's an introduction. I state who, when and where and what happened. That's in the first sentence. The second sentence I state how it happened, and in the last sentence I put the question as actually a statement, what I believe. In the 3 paragraphs that follow on from that, each one of them you'll notice is starts with a topic sentence and it ends with a link back to the question. There is evidence provided from each one of the sources in the response, and they're not discussed in order. Because you'll be handwriting this, you don't have to put in footnotes or endnotes. You can quite easily or quite adequately put in source 2 into brackets, and then that's a perfectly fine way to cite a source within the Stage 2 history exam. All right. So if you look at the first paragraph agrees with the statement. Your first paragraph always agrees with the statement that's given. And in this case, I've decided that Edward VIII shouldn't have abdicated because because there's quite obvious evidence that he was still supported by the general public, and this is seen in the photographs that are given, especially the 4B, where there's someone holding up a sign saying "Support your king." Let him know you're with him. All right, so that is very specific evidence showing that people didn't care if he wanted to marry Wallis Simpson or not. He was still going to be their king, and they were still going to support him. The second paragraph that I've put on there, I've actually shown two different sources that demonstrate that he still shouldn't have abdicated. The first one, I said that Queen Mary, his mum, had said that there is a difference between being a king and being a person, but that King Edward VIII didn't actually think that his marriage to Wallis Simpson would actually change the way that he ruled. So that is evidence to suggest that he shouldn't have abdicated. I've also said that in source 6, he tried to find ways to remain king and also marry Wallis Simpson, which demonstrates that he was willing to negotiate. He was willing to try to find alternatives to make sure that in the end he was doing the very best job that he could possibly do. But there was actually Cabinet who refused to let him do that. The last paragraph that I've written demonstrates why I think there is an argument given that he probably should have abdicated, and that is because the situation had to be resolved. Edward said that he needed Wallis Simpson in order to be able to carry out his duties as he saw fit, and that's told to you in source 1. Because Cabinet wasn't allowing him to undertake the different ways that he was trying to work out how he could marry Wallis Simpson, it meant that he was never going to find a way around it. He was either going to have to abdicate or he was going to have to let her go. Because Edward was saying that he couldn't let her go and do his job properly, he ended up having to abdicate. So there's my argument suggesting that there was no other way out of it. He had to abdicate. So that is my counter argument. That's my thing that shows there is no other way out of it. The last part of this is a conclusion. You have to state once again what your opinion is and how you've ended up showing it. Again, first sentence, who, when, where, and what. Second sentence, how, and last sentence is the statements, the question as a statement. All right, this is the longest one. It's worth the most number of marks, but this is how you would end up writing it. All right, cheers.